Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Smeeple Podcast, featuring expert budget gardener and owner of Front Yard Gardens, Lenin Lopez. Here's him and Calvin now.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Smeeple Podcast. We have Lenin here, who has been with us since essentially day one as an expert. He's in the lawn and garden category. Lenin, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of your background.
Hi, my name is Lenin. I'm the owner of Front Yard Gardens on Instagram and Facebook. What I basically do on those platforms is just kind of show people how to garden very cheaply and efficiently and also sustainably, which is nowadays probably the most important thing.
Awesome. Yeah. So what started you on that journey? Have you always been gardening, since day one coming out of birth, or is it something that you picked up more recently?
So the way it kind of started for me was back in middle school. I was the only guy in my garden club. So I was the one doing most of the digging while everyone else was planting flowers. But after that, high school, didn't really get into gardening at all. And then obviously COVID came, and with that came like an influx of like different hobbies that everyone was passionate about it. Me, it was just, I kind of wanted to do something that would keep me at home and keep me busy. So me and my girlfriend, we started gardening, and I tell you, it was the most awful experience ever. I tried growing a cabbage. It grew like this big, and then It just completely died. I had no idea what I was doing at that time. So I ended up moving from Miami to West Melbourne, which is a town near Cape Canaveral, Florida. And I really had no one else here to talk to. So I just decided, you know what, might as well try and show people gardening in the sense of sustainably in an apartment, small area gardening. And I ended up growing to around, I think now I have like 980 followers since starting about a year and a half ago. So overall, the growth has been pretty good. I've met a lot of like-minded people here in West Melbourne, made a couple of lifelong friends as well along the way. So it really just started with me about trying to find a hobby that I was busy with, and it slowly grew into a community of gardeners that I found here. And that has given me the opportunity to grow and learn new experiences along the way.
No, that's great. So I'm ignorant in a lot of things in this world. Tell me, in your best words, tell me what sustainable gardening is.
So sustainable gardening is basically a type of gardening that involves leaving nothing unturned. And what I mean by that is trying to put in more into the soil, into the environment, than taking away. A good example of that is monoculture, which is growing one kind of crop, mono meaning one, culture meaning cultivation. So that would be probably like corn or sunflowers. If you grow corn, forever, that soil is going to be depleted within probably 100 years. Whereas if you do horticulture and permaculture, the ecosystem itself supplies the energy for it. So if you're going to grow corn, might as well grow beans. Beans provide nitrogen into the soil, and that feeds the corn, and that feeds the ecosystem underneath the soil. I try my best not to use any pesticides or any sort of insecticides, just because it's kind of like the nuclear option when it comes to gardening, and it's probably the worst thing you could do for the soil. So I'm more of like a soil health, I'm a sustainability person than a sort of like ecosystem. But yeah, well, in a sense, sustainable gardening is a way of gardening that can last more than 100 years and probably last more than my lifetime, hopefully enough.
Right. No, it totally makes sense. It's funny that when you say that, did you ever play the game Sim Farm growing up?
No, I played The Sims, but not really Sims Farm.
You'll have to look. I mean, I'm probably way older than you, but I played Sim Farm, and the reason that stands out when you said about the sustainability is you grow a farm and you grow it bigger and bigger, and you do more crops. And I kept planting corn after corn after corn, which had a high yield rate, and you got a bunch of money for it. But then it's like your soil is bad, so then I dump a bunch of herbicide or fertilizer, but it was like constant feeding into it, and then it was like, you're done, you can't keep using this field anymore because you used too much stuff on it. So that's exactly, I needed you to play Sim Farm and win to be able to grow my farm there. Oh, that's interesting. Right. So how did you really learn? Is it through trial and error? Is it a mixture, with trial and error and books? Is it mainly books or talking to people? How'd you learn?
So the way I learned, I'm terrible at reading books. Like I bought probably like 2 or 3 gardening books, all from great people. Quick shout out, Epic Gardening, Calvin Holstein. Sorry, I'm not Calvin Holstein. Hugh Richards. Hugh Richards. He's a great gardener. Sorry, Calvin.
I like the shout out too,
but
but yeah, right. Yeah.
Great. I'm a great gardener, but most of the time I'm a very visual learner. If you tell me to read a book, I'll probably drag my feet for like a year about it. So I learned most of my things from watching other people on YouTube, watching other people in real life. I had a pseudo mentor, Jared Keene. He has a YouTube account called Keen's Greens, Hawaii. He lives in Hawaii now, but he used to live in West Melbourne, and he showed me a lot of his permaculture methods. His backyard was basically a jungle. Like you can't walk more than 5 feet without stepping on something that you might eat. And yeah, so you can really learn a lot just from YouTube itself. Online resources are everywhere. I always tell people, like, you can learn anything you want for free. You just have to look for it. So that's how I learned, really, is just by YouTube and other people in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great point. So something that I would struggle finding on YouTube is this question. If you were going to a deserted island and you needed to live for 3 years and you could bring seeds with you and that was going to be your only food source, give me 2 or 3 seed types of, plants, vegetables, trees, whatever. What would you bring with you to sustain you for a couple of years?
That's a hard one. Okay. So 2 to 3. So you obviously need carbs and you obviously need protein, and you can't really get any protein from plants unless it's beans. So I would probably bring beans as number 1. Carbs, and the fastest growing carb is definitely potatoes. So I bring potatoes, beans. This is a toughie. So carbohydrates, protein, fiber also comes from potatoes. So potatoes is kind of a main killer. So if I were to bring 2, it would definitely be beans and potatoes. But if I were to bring a third one, it would definitely be either corn or sunflowers, because sunflowers, they grow pretty quick. They also improve the soil very well, and you can eat the seeds. Corn would be another good one, just because you said high yielding. Maybe not actually corn, because they get a lot of diseases very regularly and they mutate like crazy. So I think top 3 would probably be some unorthodox ones. So it'll be sunflowers, because they grow very easily, and you can eat the seeds very nicely. Potatoes, because they're potatoes. That's kind of a staple apocalypse food. And beans, because beans, they'll improve the soil and you can get a lot of protein from beans. So beans, sunflowers, and potatoes, I'd say.
That's good. Yeah. So if I ever get put in that situation, I'll have to do that. So no, that's good. Right now, what do you think the most challenging thing that you grow in the garden? Have you been successful with it? Or has there been ones that you're like, I cannot figure it out still?
All right. This is kind of embarrassing. So definitely the hardest crop. I've gotten a lot better at it now. It's tomatoes. That's just because tomatoes, they're very, very picky plants. Like they're like, in terms of like poshness, I would say they're like maybe like Lamborghini level. Okay. But there are some crops that you can grow very easily, like flowers, for instance. Flowers are probably like the easiest thing. And there's obviously edible flowers like nasturtiums, sunflowers, like I said. Yeah, definitely hardest for me would probably be tomatoes. I know people will go like, oh, I'm in Florida, I'll grow like an Everglades tomato. I'm like, yeah, if only I can find the seeds for an Everglades tomato, then it'd be a lot easier for me. But definitely the hardest thing for me. I'm getting better at it now. I actually have a couple tomatoes that are not dying yet. I would say probably tomatoes for me are the hardest crop.
So that makes me feel better, because my wife has probably spent about $800 to have one little tomato that we've gotten so far from the garden, and the rest have gone to the bugs or just didn't grow, or who knows what happened to them. So that's encouraging to us, at least, because we truly see you as such an expert, and you're so the content that you put out is fantastic, and also it's at least a little reassuring that it's not easy once you get it down. Right, there's a lot of work behind it still to be good at your craft.
Especially at the scale that you have to put out.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have a favorite thing to grow in the garden?
Oh gosh, I have so many. When it comes to favorites, I do have a favorite vegetable in mind, and that's definitely radishes. Radishes are by far the easiest crop you can grow. Like
really? Okay.
There's one thing you can do called chaos gardening, where you basically grab a seed packet, just shake it on the ground, and they'll grow like nothing. They're ready to harvest in between 25 to 30 days. So the quickest growing vegetable. You could use them on literally anything. I made radish soup out of my first radishes. Very, very delicious. Radish on salads. You can mix it in your coleslaw. I'm gonna get a nice little peppery taste. Another favorite, I would say favorite flower would probably be zinnias. I love zinnias. They grow very, very well, and frankly, you just can't kill them. I mean, like I've tried.
Okay.
You can probably throw like maybe like 100 seeds in the ground and probably somehow get 200 zinnias. Like that's how easy they are to grow. They're very beautiful. I sell them regularly at my job when I have little bouquets. I probably sell like a dozen for like maybe $3. And those are by far like my easiest and my most favorite flower at the moment.
Oh, that's great. Now, have you transitioned at all to trees and, you know, fruit trees, etc., or are you sticking to more of the smaller?
So I'm experimenting with that. I have successfully grown so far 2 avocado trees, one of which is at my cousin's house, and the other one I ended up composting because I figured I live in an apartment. It's not going to grow any bigger than where it is now, and frankly, I could use the space for something else. And that's one of the hard choices that you have to make when you're growing trees. Is just if it's not going to grow and it's not going to be happy, then there's no reason to have it. Right now, one easy tree that I could recommend people to grow is definitely fig trees. Fig trees are deciduous trees, meaning that they lose their leaves in the winter. And you can find people with fig trees everywhere. Like on Facebook Marketplace, I went to this place near Cape Canaveral. He was advertising, free fig cuttings. Basically, he had a fig tree that was like already dead. Well, not already dead, but in its hibernation phase. It was just holding itself for the winter. And a pair of shears. So I cut off probably like 12 cuttings. And out of those 12, 3 of them popped up. And I have 3 fig trees right now that I'm growing. And I'm planning on making them into bonsai trees. I'm planning on making them into production trees. And fig trees in Florida, it's like tomato on a salad. You know, like you just gotta have it. The Mediterranean climate that we have here is perfect for growing all sorts of Mediterranean things like lavender, fig trees. I want to say, I'm blanking on the name right now. Oh, guava as well. Guava is a great tree to grow here, and yeah, definitely like all those kinds of trees are perfect for Florida and perfect for beginner growers. I kid you not. I just put the stick into the dirt, and a month later, it's already growing leaves and sprouting. So definitely fig trees are best to grow here.
Oh, that's great. How far up north can you go? Can fig trees survive in the winter? Or like if you go up with snow and so forth?
So I have done meetings with people who wanted to grow like different kinds of trees. I spoke to one lady about growing apple trees in her house, and I did a lot of research on apple trees. And that's also one of my favorite hobbies, just kind of researching like what can I grow, where can I grow it. But fig trees, I want to say they're good till zone 8. I don't know where zone 8 falls on the USD hardness scale. I want to say probably near Georgia, probably near South Carolina, North Carolina, that kind of area. Fig trees do great. I know if peaches can grow there, then probably fig trees can as well.
So can you explain to us what zones are? I've only heard that once or twice before. Is it just goes across the U.S. from left to right, or how does that work for zones?
So it's kind of like a heat map in a way. So what the zones talk about is the lowest freezing point that you'll experience in the winter. So I'm in zone 10A. I mean, they actually recently changed the USD hardness zones in the first time in like 15 years. But I'm in zone 10A, meaning that my lowest temperature will not go lower than, I want to say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which means that essentially I can grow whatever I want here year long. And in fact, some vegetables that are annuals, meaning that they only grow once and then die, are actually perennials here. So like eggplant, for instance, normally if you were to grow them in, I'm going to say Georgia, if you were to grow them there, they would probably sprout once, make flowers, then die. Here in Florida, I have this lady in one of my gardens. I planted an eggplant in her garden last June, and it's still kicking. It's still as big as it was. It's still pumping out flowers, still pumping out eggplants. And I did some research on it. They will last 3 years pumping out eggplants in Florida. So the USD hardness zone, in layman's terms, it just shows you how long you can grow something before it's killed by the winter. And that's very, very useful when it comes to home gardeners, because some people obviously get snow. Some people obviously get longer winters than others. So, if I say, oh, I'm growing eggplants in June here, growing eggplants in June in the state of New York is probably suicide. Because that's like zone, I want to say maybe like between 5 and 8. You can definitely grow it. It won't grow very long.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So take that back the other way now, right? Winters, obviously, to me as a you don't want I don't have a gardening thumb. Winters aren't good, right, for certain plants. Could there be plants that do better with winter and trees that would not survive in Florida?
Yeah, there are definitely plants that I wish I can grow here. Like, for example, lettuce, cabbage, all sorts of brassicas can survive the snow pretty well. In fact, iceberg lettuce, that one is actually made to be cold hardy. That's why you normally find them in places like Wisconsin or sometimes in Washington as well, where they actually love having the snow because it gives them a much sweeter flavor profile on the lettuce. I tried growing lettuce here, and I planted probably like close to 100 lettuce plants in my production garden, and they all bolted, and they all taste terrible.
Oh, no
So
kidding. Yeah.
some vegetables. There are definitely some vegetables that you can grow here that you can't grow there, but there are also some vegetables that I can grow here, but everyone else can. One good example of trees: apple trees, peach trees in particular. So they're called stone fruit. Stone fruit meaning that they have basically like a stone inside of the fruit. Think of avocados, think of peaches,
Right.
think of mangoes. Those in Florida do not survive very well, not because of the winter, but it's because of the sandy soil that we have here. The sandy soil, it collects a lot of water at the roots. That gives the plant wet feet, meaning that they'll basically get root rot and die eventually. Now, the peaches in Georgia, people rave Georgia is peach central. That's because they have clay soil, and that gives the peach a much sweeter flavor, and it doesn't give them wet feet. And especially in the winter, winter here in Florida is basically just like a nice day outside. Winters in Georgia, it's basically gray, some snow, some places, but the peach tree definitely survives much better there than here, because all trees have sort of like a schedule in their mind where I'm going to grow as big as I can in the summer. I'm going to get as many leaves as I can. And then in the winter, I'm going to put all of my energy into creating sugars to protect myself in the winter. That's fine and dandy if there's an actual winter. But if there's no actual winter, then what you're basically doing is having a tree that's trying to conserve energy, and it's getting so much of it that it ends up rotting from the inside and burning itself. So that's one of the issues of planting trees in different places where they're not supposed to be.
Right. That just hearing that alone of itself, hearing what goes into it is just amazing to just think of, creation in that way. Interesting. Hey, so another question for you then. I had the honor of going over to Uganda a couple times in Africa, and fantastic country. The second time I was there, I came outside of one of the homes, and this tree was massive. It was like old school down south oak size trunk, massive. I don't even know how tall, maybe 40 feet high. And I was like, those look like avocados. And the guy goes, it is avocados. And I'm like, these things were massive avocados on this tree. And I was like, man, we would love that at my house, because my wife, unfortunately, because of the price, buys, we have 4 or 5 on our counter every single day. And I think they're at least $1 a piece. And you should have seen this guy's jaw drop. He's like, you guys pay $1 for one of these? Because I guess they're so plentiful there. Could I have taken if legally allowed, right? So could I take a trimming piece from there, bring that over and create this massive avocado tree? Or is it, are trees really saying, hey, I got to stay in Uganda. This is, my soil, my weather. Do avocado trees grow like that over here in the US? Because I picture avocado trees as a tiny little stick with something hanging off, not this massive oak-like structure.
Well, so I'm from Florida, and it's basically Hispanic Central here. I'm Hispanic myself. And in Miami, if you see an avocado tree, it is not like this big. It is at least probably maybe at least 2 yards in diameter.
Okay, so they are big then. Okay.
Yeah, it's very weird. Avocados is a stone fruit, so logically speaking, it shouldn't grow very well here. But the climate is very, very similar to Africa. So I I want to say avocado is actually native to Africa, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not
Okay.
gonna lie, obviously. But definitely speaking, the climate here in Florida is much better to grow avocados than I'm assuming where you live.
Right.
And that's one of the things that actually made me sad about moving there because even though Miami is only like 3 hours away by car, where I live now, there's just no good avocados here, and
Oh,
I very much miss having a good guacamole or a good salad in general when it comes with
yes.
avocado. I actually had the favor of visiting my parents in Maine, and they had avocados on the shelf, but they were the worst tasting avocados I've ever had in my entire life. Um, so I don't know where you live. I don't know if it's similar to the climate of Florida or to Africa.
We're in Maryland. We're in Maryland right now.
Okay, yeah, no, you're out of luck, man. I'm sorry.
Right, right.
Yeah,
It was fun. We
yeah.
just went out as Smeeple team went out on Friday night to a Mexican restaurant. They did the tableside guacamole and a bunch of. It tasted great. Now it's making me think I should not get that anymore. I need to go down to Miami to get tableside guacamole. Then
You really should. You really should. The amount of people here. I personally, I used to have an avocado tree in my yard as a kid, and it gave me probably like avocados like this big, and they were absolutely like literally the size of my head.
right.
Absolutely amazing. And I remember during one hurricane when I lived in Miami, my neighbor had an avocado tree, and it was fully full of fruit. And then a hurricane came, and the tree fell over into the neighbor's swimming pool. Like luckily, like they weren't home, but my mom that day she jumped over the fence, and my mom is like 5 foot on a good day, so she jumped over the fence, stole probably like I want to say 200 avocados. So we ate avocados for honestly that like every single day for like I want to say 3 months.
Right, right, right. Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
The so going back to just the consumers and the people that are listening, I don't have a green thumb. My whether I have a small yard, big yard, or talking to people that maybe like you said live in an apartment or something.
Mhm.
What would you recommend be the first or two things that they want to grow if they're just starting out growing? Like for example, I'm already thinking in my head radishes. If it's 25 days till those things work and it's hard to kill, like I'm going to recommend to my family, hey, let's just grow some radishes. But do you have any
Mhm.
other recommendations for people that say, hey, I have a smaller space, whether inside or outside, maybe both actually? If you're inside trying to grow or outside trying to grow, what would you recommend?
So I would say the best things to grow in a small space, like an apartment, would probably be food that you actually enjoy. So if you don't enjoy radishes, if you don't enjoy spicy habanero peppers, or if you don't enjoy even tomatoes, definitely pick food that you can enjoy. You can grow anything, anywhere, as long as you have the right space for it.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I have a garden bed that I got at Sam's Club or Costco. You can probably find them both there. But I can grow basically anything I want in there. Heck, I can grow carrots in there, potatoes in there. But for like a beginner gardener in an apartment, I always recommend get those little 6-inch pots. You can get them at Target for like $3-5. Start growing food that you actually enjoy. So that would be lettuce for me, peppers. I love peppers. I actually have like a whole kitchen table full of peppers right now.
Mm.
Eggplants. I love eggplant parm. Um, yeah, definitely just stuff that you enjoy. I mean, if you have to pick a vegetable, that would be the easiest. Definitely radishes. If you have to pick a flower, I would say marigolds, zinnias, daisies,
Oh.
dahlias, all that stuff. Definitely as well.
Oh, that's interesting. That marigolds and dahlia by two reasons. Marigold, I remember as a little kid, I haven't even thought about it till you said that. It was a little pot that I got, and years later, my mom planted it on the side of our house. It was huge, and we didn't do anything. Right, this thing just
Yeah.
grew, beautiful flowers on it and whatnot. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
fantastic. Going back to the eggplant, it's just speaking of my mom. I love my mom. I don't look it, but I'm Italian. And my mom makes amazing, amazing spaghetti and made her own sauce and everything. Once a quarter, she would make eggplant parmesan. Let's
Mhm.
just say I found myself a little bit too sick to eat dinner that night because I did not want to eat it. It did not taste good. Was it my mom's cooking or is it eggplant parmesan? Because you said that you like it. So it sounds to me that maybe I should try it again.
Well, it really depends on how much you love your mom, if you want to lie to her or not. I would definitely say I will say this, however. I did not realize how spicy radishes were until I actually grew one for myself and I ate it raw. And I honestly didn't even know how sweet carrots were until I actually grew one. So if you were to actually grow your own eggplant, I grew my own eggplant, and it was by far the most tenderest eggplant I have ever eaten in my entire life. And my girlfriend, she baked it beautifully, put it on a nice plate, and I ate the whole thing. It was absolutely delicious. Even fried eggplant, just fresh vegetables and fresh food in general is just amazing, no matter how you cut it. But yeah, it really just depends on how much you love your mom and how much you want to lie to her or not.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. Going from the flowers, I think that you said it for bouquets. Have you grown flowers for like weddings and different events?
I haven't grown flowers for bouquets and weddings just yet. I really only been doing it as a hobby. Actually, after this meeting, I have to go to the field and start planting all my new flowers and stuff. I'm gonna plant dahlias, baby's breath, some more sunflowers as well. When I first started doing the field gardening, like the market gardening, I called up, like, and anybody can do this. You can call any florist in your area and just ask them, hey, what do you use the most? Do you use sunflowers more than baby's breath? Do you use tulips more than I want to say lilies? And they'll give you like a straight answer because obviously they want those flowers from you. When I started growing sunflowers, I grew probably, I want to say 50 sunflowers. Before I actually put them in the ground, I called and he said, hey, how much would you pay me to grow sunflowers? Some of them say, oh, $1 per head, $2 a head. And I ended up doing the math. I bought a seed packet from Johnny Seed Company. Also, shout out to them. They make really good seeds.
Okay.
Sorry. They make really good seeds. And I bought a packet of 500 sunflowers for probably $25. Very expensive sunflowers. Very expensive sunflowers.
Right.
But I did the math. If I were to sell each of them for $2 each, that's already $1,000.
Right. Right.
And you really just have to figure out what you want to grow and how easily it is. Sunflowers, definitely the easiest to grow. And sunflowers, they basically sell themselves. They're like hotcakes, you know? Who doesn't want sunflowers in their house?
Right.
So I haven't gone to that level yet, but I am planning on to doing that this summer. I'm planning on getting a big expansion into my field and trying to focus on flower farming.
Right. Do you see yourself 5-10 years from now that's doing this full time and, you know, gardening is your what you're known for in the world?
In 5-10 years, I do see myself gardening. I would love to be a part of Smeeple for those 5-10 years, or really just any sort of consultant, because I feel like with the kind of research that I do and the kind of passion I have with gardening and with plants in general, I feel like I can help a lot of people doing that. So I would definitely say in 5-10 years, I could see myself doing the consulting and doing the gardening. I've even tried to get in contact with some bigger farms in the area, and definitely small farmers here in general. Small farmers nowadays, they're not really making as much money as people think they are, and I feel like they need as much help as they can get.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point just for our listeners, where if they want to get involved, and maybe I'm assuming here, farmers pretty open for people to come over and talk to them and try out and ask questions, or how is the community feel in gardening?
So in terms of community of gardening, you can go on Facebook and you can just type away like, oh, gardeners in I don't know, I'm a Boston, Maine, you know, or you can find plenty of groups. I found a seed exchange a group in Facebook. You can find anything you want really on social media, but the garden community is definitely the most welcoming of people. You know, as long as you're not a weirdo and want to grow tomatoes in a bucket of somebody's poop, you know, stuff like that.
That's good enough.
But they are definitely open to people who would like to garden, and you could just find them on Facebook and you can give them a call, give them a message. I've come in contact with at least half a dozen people who would love gardening, and I've installed gardens for those people, and I still keep in regular contact with them. Oh, how are they going? How are the beans that I planted? How's the potatoes? Did the watermelon die or not? It probably did, you know. Stuff like that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point just in regards to the community involvement and the knowledge share, right? Because that's really what Smeeple's all about is, hey, someone has that knowledge that wants to be able to share it and, you know, able to meet with them. One last question. I think, am I running out of time? Am I good right now?
No, I actually have a question as well.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to the creative director in a second. Aaron, my question is, I've heard a lot too in regards to be very careful of, you know, mass food production, the chemicals that they use, you know, the pesticides and herbicides. And I saw an article, Tom Brady dunks his strawberries in vinegar or something, and Tom Brady will be a guest probably next episode. Is that right? He does something with his straw, or doesn't eat strawberries because the amount of pesticides. With your knowledge, is there stuff that you should say, hey, especially we have little kids in the house, is there stuff we should stay away from in the grocery store? Unless you can grow it local, or you're buying it local, or you're doing it yourself, don't eat it.
So that's a pretty big question, to be honest. It definitely depends on what kind of views you have in terms of what you think food can do to you. If you think that if you can eat pesticides and eat herbicides and think nothing's going to happen to you, that's your prerogative. But in my experience, generally speaking, it does not really go well, especially for women who are pregnant who eat foods like that. It's genuinely not very safe for the mother or even the kid. I would say stay away from food that you're unfamiliar with entirely. You know, if you're a bit iffy about this too perfect looking banana in the supermarket, I would probably stay away from it. Definitely look for food that's local to you. You know, for example, here in Florida, we're pretty famous for watermelons. You know, and like watermelon farming here in Florida, definitely one of the toppest things on our mind. I know that I don't specifically know the number, but if you were to buy a piece of fruit off the store legally, they have to have a sticker on them, and that sticker has a series of numbers. And according to that number, you can tell if it's had pesticides in it, if it's a GMO, if it's a hybrid, if it was grown organically. And definitely, I would probably do your research on that and just see like if you can willingly go to a grocery store and buy food like that, or if you think you'd be much safer growing your own food. I personally took that plunge in 2 years ago. I decided, you know what, if I'm going to grow food, I might as well grow it in a way that I know where it came from. It came from my balcony, it came from my field, it came from soil, it came from the compost that I used, rather than buying it from, let's say, a farm in Ecuador. And no hate on Ecuador, they make really good roses. You know, you don't really know what was in that. You don't know what was in the soil. You don't know what was in the air at the time. And you really just have to do your own research and just see, like, can I eat this? Am I willing to eat this? And the cost effectiveness of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then to encourage what you're saying, and to the listeners who have this, I remember growing up, you know, in the 80s and the 90s, and I don't think people thought too much about that, but I do think that the general public's becoming more aware, right? Sensitive due to the amount of knowledge that's being able to be spread. And you know, I appreciate the experts that we have with homesteading and lawn and garden and so forth that are a good resource in regards to reaching out and saying, one, it's possible to be able to grow stuff, right? You can do it. And then two, also just be careful of what you're growing, right? Or be aware of what you're buying, and also what, you know, what you should be growing yourself, I should say. So anyway, no, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. I think Aaron, our creative director, had a question.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, first and foremost, Lennon, this has been awesome to just sit back and listen to this. You're clearly an expert in this field, and I mean, you've also seemed like you're built for this as well. So, I mean, you've just been answering the questions beautifully and everything. But there's been a lot of this conversation that's been coming to me, and I'm hearing all of these little sound bites that are just going to turn into perfect content for both you and I. But the one thing that really stood to me the most was you were talking about, was it Everglade tomatoes and the seeds, and they're super hard to find. If I saw someone on Instagram talking about the hardest seeds to find, because I feel like seeds are just, you can just buy them, you know what I mean? But like, could Calvin ask you, what are the hardest seeds to get? And what would be like your most ultimate seed to just have, at your disposal, something like that? Yeah.
I mean, you asked it good enough. Yeah. So it's,
I need the content of you saying it, though. That's
you need me to say it?
I need you to say it. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Hold on a second. So you did it great. You have such a good voice, Aaron. All right. So, yeah, Lennon, you mentioned about the Everglades tomato. Is that correct? Everglades tomato? So the Everglades tomato, the seeds being a little bit difficult to come by. To me, that's I thought you could buy everything. Just go to Amazon and you have, right, whatever you want, delivered within 24 hours or 2 hours or 72 hours, whatever their system is. Are there seeds that are difficult to come by? And, you know, are there seeds that's like the elusive seed where you have to go at October 29th in the midnight, right? And then you're able to, it illuminates from the moon and you could see them. No, but are there seeds that are hard to come by?
So here's the thing: is that there's kind of like a seed oligarchy nowadays with a lot of different companies. They own probably like 80% of the seeds nowadays that are coming out.
Wow.
I would say probably it's not hard in the sense that I can't find it. It's just hard that it's expensive. Is the thing because there are a lot of really expensive good seeds out there. There is a type of Japanese melon or a Chinese melon. It's I think it starts with a K, but it's like a green honeydew melon that's very famous throughout Japan. Those seeds are very expensive. I remember on Instagram I saw this guy who got like a 5-gallon bucket of them, and that 5-gallon bucket of seeds cost him, I want to say, $2,000 just for a bunch of squash seeds, essentially.
Right.
So, and obviously seeds from other countries, that has to go through immigration. That's another cost as well. Definitely those melon seeds would probably be very nice to grow, but seeds abroad in general, very, very hard to get. I've known a couple people who have managed to bring them abroad by questionable means. I know this one guy on YouTube who brought a medicine bottle with him, like one of those like orange ones, like with the blue or like, the white caps, and he filled it with like some random whatever junk, and then he came back with it, and he filled it with I think they were Hungarian eggplants, I think, some sort of Hungarian fruit. But he brought them over in a little medicine bottle, and he brought it through TSA, and it went perfectly fine. I can just imagine buying that like on Amazon from Hungary. That would probably be easily like maybe $30 a seed packet in general. Like,
wow,
even sunflower seeds grown here in the U.S., even if they're Johnny seeds, which are very, very good seeds, that's $25 for a seed packet, and that was just off one packet. You know, like I can't imagine people buying a couple thousand seeds, you know, for farms and stuff. But yeah, I would definitely say that that I'm a Japanese Chinese squash. Very, very hard seed to come by, but I'm also very interested to grow that one as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Have you made it overseas to go see different vegetation? And is that a passion of yours to go overseas and see what America can have?
Yeah, definitely. So recently I went on a cruise in the Mediterranean, and we stopped at a bunch of ports in Greece and Italy and Malta. And one thing stuck out to me, and it was that in every single corner of Greece, there's an olive tree somewhere. And it was kind of a stereotype, you know, they make olive oil, but I mean like everywhere. Like there's shrubs are olive trees, there's fig trees everywhere. I remember that I went to a museum there as well, and they had orange trees as part of the landscape, and there were fresh oranges that you can eat, like right off like the tree. And seeing that really made me eye-opening, because like, you know, people in the US, you know, everyone wants to go to a park and enjoy it. Whereas like if sorry, I'm kind of blanking on it right now. So when I was there going through the street, just walking down the street, there's like these little trees that pop up everywhere. That's like everywhere though. And when I walked by, I looked closer. They were apple trees used as landscape. And I thought that was a genius idea, you know, because just like one person comes every month, checks on the trees, waters the trees, gives them fertilizer. And then if there's any people who need an apple tree, you know, maybe a homeless population, or maybe just people who are hungry, you know, they could just pick that rather than steal food. And I feel like that's something that America would be very good at benefiting. Just like wild fruit trees, you know, like there's not really a downside to it. That's most of Hawaii, for that matter. You know, you can't. I'm gonna throw a stone without finding a guava tree anywhere. I don't see why that can't be the matter here.
What a fantastic idea. I don't even think about that in regards to, you know, instead of the ornamental tree, right? Which obviously pretty to drive by, but what a fantastic idea in regards to just growing wild, you know, fruit trees for just great benefit. Where I have a couple of friends from down south where I grew up in an area that didn't have fruit trees, and they talked about walking down the road and picking it off from their neighbor's tree hanging, you know, and then eating it as they walked. And it's just, to me, that's just such a foreign concept, where I grew up in you go to the grocery store and that's your option, right? Versus, no, just walk outside and you can grab berries, you can grab, you know, a fruit and whatnot. No, that's great. So I got one more question that made me actually think of, because my wife has spent probably our life savings on trying to grow that second tomato. What does your budget really need to look at, like, to be able to start gardening? And then what are the essentials you need to be able to start? You mentioned a pot, from Target, $3 to $5, but if you said here are the 5 items, 3 items, whatever it may be, to really start gardening, whether it be flowers or vegetables, and then really what budget are you looking at?
So I would say the 5 things that you would need to start gardening, no matter where you are, would probably be number 1, time. Not the plant, but like actual time, time. Just like, what is your time span looking like? I was talking about the growing zones. Can you grow this vegetable or fruit year long? Can you grow it during a short time? Do you have to wait to grow it? Just things like that. Just seeing your timeline and figuring out when can I actually grow this. The second thing would definitely look at varieties. So apple trees, for instance, there's like a dime a dozen. There's Honeycrisp, there's Grandma's Blend, there's yellow apples, green apples. You really have to just look at like which one would work best in your environment. So like I said, I had that one meeting with that one lady who wanted to grow apple trees, and I actually found out that when it comes to apple trees, not all of them grow the same. You need to have 1 or 2 apple trees to actually get apples because they cross-pollinate. Whereas some varieties, they are self-pollinating. So they only need 1 tree and they pollinate themselves, similar to most tomatoes. But definitely look at varieties, like what kind of trees you can grow in your area and which one would be best for your climate. If it's a cold climate, maybe look for more of a cold hardy plant. If you live in kind of like a boggy environment, downhill where you get a lot of rain, find a variety that can withstand a lot of water. I'm just stuff like that. Definitely the third thing would definitely be priorities. So are you trying to grow a garden purely just for, summer hobby, something to do while you're not in school or while you're not at work? Or is this something that you want to do long term, like feed your family, homesteading for that matter? So you just really have to evaluate what kind of your end goal is for the gardening. Fourth would definitely be materials. Like I said, you need pots, you would need seeds, you would need soil. Those 3 things are probably the only expensive things that you're ever going to buy. In pots, you could use them forever. Seeds, if you buy 1,000 seeds, then you have 1,000 plants, more or less. If you buy soil, you're going to keep buying soil. So that's something that you need to focus on as well. For instance, me, I do vermicomposting, meaning in my apartment, in a closet somewhere, I have 2 5-gallon buckets with a couple 1,000 worms in there. And whenever I have any food scraps, like when I'm cooking, you just dump food in there. The worms eat it, the worms poop, and you use that poop to put back in the garden. I'm actually planning on making a video about it for Instagram as well.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah. What are they, just normal worms, or what are they?
So the way I do it is very, very cheap. You go to Home Depot, you get 3 5-gallon buckets. 3 5-gallon buckets are probably like $4 each. That's $12. You go to your any sort of like office supply store, ask them for some free shredded paper. They'll give you some free shredded paper. Go to Walmart, specifically Walmart. You go to the fishing section. They have live red wiggler worms. You buy those, and each packet comes with probably like, I want to say like 10 to 50 worms, depending on how big. And I only bought 2 of those little packets. I have not bought worms in a year because every 3 months they double their population. And right now, if I were to bring my worm bin over here and like grab a handful, you could see worms probably crawling out of every corner. So that's one thing they have to do with like the recurring costs. Soil is definitely a very big recurring cost. Even in like most production farms, they need to outsource their compost because they don't produce enough compost. That's one thing that I learned from Justin Roids on YouTube. You can never make enough compost. You can never make enough compost because you're always going to be needing it. And lastly, the 5th thing I would say is just willingness to fail is definitely a big one, because I cannot tell you how many plants I've killed, how many I've killed off by accident or on purpose. You just need to understand that even though you're not going to grow the most perfect, beautiful tomato ever the first time, doesn't mean that you're ever going to make it. That's one thing that a lot of first-time gardeners do. They buy the tomato that they get at Home Depot or Lowe's, and they kill it, and they're like, oh, I guess I don't have a green thumb. You do have a green thumb. You just need to keep trying. So definitely just the willingness to accept failure and to learn from it is definitely the big 5.
Yep, that's fantastic. One last question, I promise. And sorry to my creative director. Speaking of Lowe's and Home Depot, you walk in and just talking about seeds and all those packets of seeds. Good idea to buy from a big box store, or where should you be buying your seeds from?
So, place to buy seeds really just depends on you. I sort of go more by brand than store. So here in Florida, I know every state has like a different brand. I know that Botanical Interest is a very big one in California. I don't know if you guys have that brand in Maryland. But here in Florida, there's mainly two big brands. There's Ferry Moore seed and Burpee seed. I prefer Ferry Moore seed, mostly because on the packet, they just say non-GMO. On the back of the packet, it shows you the growing zones and where to grow it and stuff like that. It's a very beginner-friendly packet to buy from. And like I said, non-GMO seeds are probably the best seeds you can probably find.
So help me with my ignorance. Help me with my ignorance. Non-GMO. I heard GMO maybe with Chinese food or something. I can't remember where I heard GMO from. What is that?
So GMO stands for genetically modified organism, and that can mean an animal or a plant. Good plant example would definitely be corn. Corn is probably the most genetically modified product in the whole world, and the U.S. is the leading manufacturer of GMO corn. So much so that Mexico actually stopped buying corn from the U.S. because it's been saturated with GMOs and pesticides and herbicides that they deemed it unhealthy enough. And a lot of European countries also deem American corn to be very unhealthy for you, just because of there's a lot of high fructose corn syrup in all corn. Most of the corn that you buy nowadays would originally be used for animal food or for oil production, because corn is one of the main ingredients to make biofuel. So definitely GMOs, it's a lot of a perspective thing. So it's similar to trying to figure out if you want to grow your own food or not. If you're comfortable eating GMOs, be more than comfortable eat GMOs. If you don't feel comfortable eating it, then you don't have to. You know, I buy my own non-GMO seeds from Ferry Morse. I love their company. I love their brand. I love their model. And yeah, I would definitely say GMOs are probably one thing that you have to do a lot of research on yourself and make an educated choice on that, because I don't want to be the person to say don't eat it and be wrong, and I definitely don't want to be the person to say yeah, eat it and then be wrong, you know.
Right, yeah. No, that's wise too. Yeah, just I appreciate the balanced approach that you have with that one, right? Because some people might be stuck saying, well, I can start small in my small little garden, but I am going to have to buy from the store, right? So it's a process for sure. So a good example, like the GMO versus non-GMO, a watermelon. I can't stand the seeds in watermelons when I eat it. Trying to spit them out. I'm not 8 years old anymore. My wife doesn't let me spit them in the house. If you had a seedless watermelon, does that mean that is a GMO watermelon?
So that is a very common misconception. Seedless watermelons are not GMOs; they are a hybrid, meaning that instead of it being genetically modified, via DNA, it's a hybrid between three different watermelon plants. I believe the process was that they get a fertile female bulb and fertilize it with a sterile female bulb, and that produced a female seedless watermelon, meaning that it had no reproductive means, meaning that if you grow the watermelon, you can't grow anymore. So that would be a hybrid one, not GMO.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that one. Already I feel a little bit, I'm looking forward to impress my friends with the knowledge that I have. Awesome. Well, hey, Lenin, phenomenal. You're incredible. Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate your time. People, please book this man. He is phenomenal in regards to gardening. I look forward to your continued success and watching you grow, Lenin. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I look forward to Smeeple helping me get there.
Thanks for listening to this brand new episode of the Smeeple Podcast. You too can learn from Lenin one-on-one via video chat on the Smeeple app. But until then, leave us a 5-star review, let us know what you thought of the episode, and we'll see you real soon next time on the Smeeple Podcast.